All right, everyone, good evening. We'll go ahead and get started, just being conscious of time, right at 7 o'clock. My name is Danny Eckstein. I'm with the School of Data Science at the University of Virginia and the program manager for our Mentoring to Increase Neurodiversity in Data Science Minds program. Really thrilled that you all are able to join us tonight to learn a little bit more about the program. I'm joined here with a few colleagues who are also supporting the project. And so we'll ask them to go ahead and come off mute briefly and introduce themselves. And let's go ahead and start with Kathy, please.
Hi, good evening. I'm Kathy Anderson, and I'm with the School of Data Science as well as Danny. And I'm just representing the School of Data Science. As I said, I'm one of the people who worked with my colleagues here to create the program and work with the Jefferson Trust to get the grant that supports the program. And I'll be talking to you a little bit later about the details of the program. Erica, do you want to go next?
Absolutely. Hi, everybody. I'm Erica Rao. I am faculty at the School of Education at UVA, and I am also the Director of Autism Services at the Sheila Johnson Center for Clinical Services that runs out of the School of Education, and excited to be here talking about this new program. Kevin?
Hi, I'm Kevin Pelfrey. I'm a neuroscientist and professor of neurology at UVA, and I use magnetic resonance imaging to study brains and brain development, how brains work. So I generate data that data scientists like to work on, and I'm here to tell you a little bit about the program and the ideas behind it.
Great, thanks you all for those introductions. So next up, just wanted to give you a sense of the structure of our conversation for this evening. So we'll start with an overview of the program description. We'll talk you through the application process to participate in the program. We'll also look closely at the program timeline that will take place over a couple of semesters. And we'll speak to the involvement that any caregivers might have, walk through the tuition and tools for success, and also talk about the research component of this program as well. We definitely want this to be an incredibly useful experience for you all attending tonight. So we will save time at the end for any questions that you might have. But feel free throughout the webinar to go ahead and send us any questions that do come up. And the best way to do so is to use either the chat or Q&A function. So if you look to the bottom of your Zoom screen where you see the slide, you should see two buttons, one for either chat, one for Q&A. And if you just click those buttons, you should be able to type in your questions. And based on the question, we'll either address that as we go through the webinar, or we'll hold that to the very end. So feel free to throw those as we go through the webinar. All right, and with that, I will hand things over to Kevin just to give us a little bit more background on the program.
Great. So our motivation for building this program is a couple-fold. One is that we have a massive data science workforce shortage, so we need a lot of people to join this field and to learn about data science. And we're particularly interested in people who can think critically, recognize patterns, efficiently analyze data, and come at data without a lot of preconceptions or preconceived ideas, and who can focus very deeply. And what we've found in our research is that many autistic and neurodiverse young adults are very, very good at exactly the types of tasks that we're interested in, and have really the characteristics that would make them fantastic data scientists. And so we put those two ideas together and built this program that's trying to provide a pathway for neurodiverse young adults to become data scientists through a tailored educational experience that really plays to the strengths of autistic young adults and really uses that neurodiversity to help us meet this data science workforce shortage. So one of the exciting things about the program is that when you are done with it, you're actually going to be receiving a University of Virginia certificate that you can use in your career and your job searches to show the world that you've come to the UVA School of Data Science and you've learned these skills. Also, we have quite a bit of training in social skills and executive function built into our program so that you will be really the employees that everybody is looking for. You'll have all of those skills outside of just the ability to do data science that will make you a fantastic employee and what employers are looking for. Of course, we are going to help you learn those essential data science skills. And we have a lot of connections through the School of Data Science and other schools at UVA to real world job experiences and connections to employers. So we'll be able to get you that essential real world experience that will allow employers to see just how valuable you can be to their company. And then finally, we are doing this in the context of a research study. So something that we're interested in is understanding how we can make the program better and better over time to better fit the needs of neurodiverse individuals. And so we'll be collecting some data that we'll tell you about that will allow us to improve our program as we move into the future. Okay, so in terms of what sorts of qualifications you need to apply, high school graduate, be 18 to 35 years old, have an autism spectrum condition. So something like autism spectrum disorder, Asperger's disorder, pervasive developmental disorder, those sorts of diagnoses or conditions. And then most importantly, be interested in data science. And so you may or may not know whether or not you're interested in data science, and hopefully today's conversation will help you, make a decision around that. But if you're somebody who likes math, likes puzzles, problem solving, statistics, programming, then you're somebody who has an interest in data science, because that's the types of things that data scientists do, and can be very fun, but you still get paid for it. So that's the ideal mix. And our work is really multidisciplinary. So you could tell from the introductions that we're a range of different types of scientists and clinicians and educators. And so this is a joint venture between the UVA School of Data Science, the Universities of Virginia's Supporting Transformative Autism Research, which is based in the School of Education and Human Development, and then the University of Virginia Brain Institute, which is based primarily in the School of Medicine, but is another cross-grounds initiative that's seeking to help understand how the brain works. And overall, we want to prepare a new generation of autistic adults to be data scientists, and we want to provide opportunities for people like ourselves to conduct research that will really hopefully transform the lives of autistic adults and improve opportunities for meaningful work. And I think finally, the most important thing our work might contribute is to really change thinking about populations with disabilities or neurodiverse populations from a kind of a a disabilities perspective to one where we're really thinking about the unique contributions that neurodiverse individuals can make, one of which is contributing to our field of data scientists who can actually work on very, very important problems that change the lives of everybody in the world for the better.
Okay, great. I think that's takes it to me.
Yep.
Great. Thank you, Kevin. I think it's really important to sort of have that background and the motivation for this program as we move into exactly what does the program look like? What's it going to look like in this coming year? So we've designed it in 3 phases. Phase 1 is the data science education and the social skills development piece. And that part starts in this fall of 2022, and then would continue into spring of 2023. Phase 2 would follow immediately after that, and that's the job shadowing and internship piece. So starting in the summer of next year, after phase 1 is complete, our plan, we'll talk a little bit more about each of these phases. So this is just a little overview. Phase 2 would be in the summer of 2023. We anticipate that those internships would be, 4 to 6 months, where you would be actually practicing in an employer situation, those skills, both the data science and the social skills in an employment setting during phase 2. And then phase 3 would be actual employment, anticipated to start probably in the winter, January 2024 timeframe. So let's look at what each of those phases look like in a little bit more depth. So phase 1, starting this fall, the data science education piece does consist of 2 terms, two non-credit courses starting in fall 2022. What would you be learning in that first semester, that first term? So that first data science course really focuses on programming in Python. Maybe you've taken a programming course before, maybe it wasn't in Python, maybe this would be your first programming course you've ever taken. Either way, it's a foundational programming course, getting you very comfortable with the Python language. And even if you've had Python before, this is focused on the kinds of things that you need to do as a data analyst, a data scientist. So it's manipulation of data, how to import the data in from a variety of different formats and different places, explore the data, visualize what it looks like, what the data can tell you, and do basic statistical manipulations. So the whole point of that first semester is getting really confident and build your interest in what the data can tell you and how to manipulate it in that programming language of Python. The second semester, which would be spring 2023, the emphasis would be, more on continuing in the Python, but perhaps doing more project-based work with data that you might identify available openly on the internet, or data that, perhaps your instructor can help guide you to. So maybe you're particularly interested in healthcare data or sports data or financial data, and getting really into a project that you might have particular interest in. In addition, we anticipate that in that second term, you would be using SQL, structured query language, for obtaining data from databases, because when you hit that phase 2 and you're working in an employer situation, most companies have data in databases. And one of the first things you're going to have to do is extract that data from a database and then manipulate it in Python. So both of those courses are non-credit, meaning they're pass-fail. There will be assessments that you'll do just to show that you've learned the skills. The plan is for those, particularly for term 1, to be a one-on-one situation. That would be, you, the student, working one-on-one with an instructor for about 2 1.5-hour sessions each week. And that would be flexibly scheduled between you and the instructor, who is a graduate student in the School of Data Science. So while you're working live online, with this graduate student via Zoom, very much, this isn't as interactive as those sessions would be, because you'd be talking back and forth, but it would be online, very much like this, using this technology. You'd be working interactively, doing live coding sessions, going over concepts together, and then the rest of the week you'd be working on practicing things that were assigned to you. And then also during phase 1 in fall and spring, you'd be doing social skills development via the peers as a cohort, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. On the next slide, I think, we just want to reinforce what that one-on-one instruction looks like. It's with a School of Data Science graduate student, providing very personalized instruction to the students in the fall and the spring, so that after phase 1, you're prepared for phase 2, which is the shadowing and internship opportunities with an employer. So in the next slide, Erica, do you want to talk a little bit about the social skills piece that happens in phase 1?
Sure. Thanks, Kathy. So concurrent to the data science instruction that she was describing, that will be largely one-on-one, participants will also be participating as a cohort, as a group of about 6 is what we're aiming for, in social skills sessions once per week. So those will be group sessions held over Zoom, and we'll be using once a week, and we'll be using something called the peers curriculum, which has a nice base of evidence for building social skills in individuals with autism, and other various social skills challenges. So that emphasizes things like how to handle disagreements, how to join a conversation, how to work in a group, things that are very much relevant to the workplace and social demands that might come up, are the things that we're going to be really focusing on. We do want this program to also sort of be a wraparound program that emphasizes quality of life for individuals as well. So we know that the peers curriculum has shown nice outcomes in terms of people feeling more self-confident in social situations, having less social anxiety, that sort of thing. So we think that it's a good fit as we prepare individuals to go into the workplace internship shadowing setting. And again, this will be all virtual, and this program has shown nice evidence actually for virtual delivery. The key is sort of breaking down those social situations into explicit steps, practicing those, which is why we'll be meeting as a group. We'll be doing some breakout rooms on Zoom to be able to practice these skills in sort of a non-judgmental setting. And then practice will be the expectation between our group meetings, and we'll talk about how to accomplish that. We are also going to be adding some sessions that focus on executive functioning skills. So just knowing that things like organization and planning and time management are also key for the workplace success. So we'll be mixing in some of those as well alongside the social skills trainings. And these sessions are going to be largely facilitated by graduate students in psychology who will be supervised by me.
That's great. So just really to summarize, you might be wondering, okay, I heard a lot in those last couple of slides about, the data science education piece and the social skills piece. Here we have just a visual of a schedule of what the week might look like. Again, it's very flexible because this is customized. So it would vary a little bit, but just to give you a sense, for 2 days a week, you would be working with your data science instructor one-on-one. So that might be the sample depiction here has that session being on a Monday and Wednesday afternoon from say 3:30 to 5 o'clock. That's when you would know that you would be meeting with your graduate, your data science instructor, to go over, live together in a synchronous session on Zoom, the planned content for the week. And then your social skills development would be as a group, as we mentioned, probably 6 students for about an hour, hour and a half per week. This sample schedule has that happening on Thursday afternoon, 3:30 to 4:30. But then, we also mentioned, the independent work that happens in between those live sessions. So you might need to prepare and practice to get ready for your live session with your data science instructor, or prepare and practice the social skills training. And so that's very flexible, right, around the live sessions that are scheduled. I don't have the weekends. We don't have the weekends depicted here, but you may very well want to, depending on what works for you, to do that independent work on the Saturdays or Sundays. We're estimating that's 10 to 15 hours a week total, but that really depends on your own background, your learning style, your skills and abilities. Have you done programming before? How much time does it take you to pick up on some of these things? You may find this really interesting and you want to dig into it, right? Depending on what you're learning in class that week. So it really just depends. This is just an example. So then phase 2, we've talked a lot about phase 1, which is the data science and social skills education piece. Then we move into phase 2. While we're getting to know you during phase 1 and what your interests are, like I mentioned, maybe you are really interested in things like cars and transportation, or maybe you're really interested in financial topics, sports, things like that. We're really going to want to know what you find interesting, so that we can try to find an employment situation that's going to really be interesting to you. Healthcare, whatever it might be. We do have a vast network of employers, and we've had many already reach out to us about this program, really interested in working with this population. So phase 2 would be pairing you up with an employer who is really interested in supporting this program and people like you. And so it's an opportunity. They'll be very intimately familiar with what you've been learning in the classroom and providing you with opportunities to reinforce and continue to learn data science, data analytics skills in the workplace and practice those social skills piece. So, we don't have all the answers right now. What are those employers? Would that be part-time, full-time, remote, or in person? Again, it's really going to be, what are you interested in? And what are the employers interested in, and making that match for you? Will they be paid or unpaid? That depends on what funding we're able to put in place, the particular employers and things like that. But certainly by phase 3, that's the goal is employment, anticipated by 2024. And the next slide, I think, just has a timeline that shows, just another visual to sort of depict what we've talked about here. Phase 1 is the data science education and social skills training piece, where we're really focused on the one-on-one situation, maybe pairing you up in the second term to work on group projects together, maybe a little bit of stepping into that situation. So that starts in fall 2022 and takes us into spring 2023. Phase 2 starts in the summer of 2023 and takes us about 6 months into employment planned by 2024. I think that's it for my piece.
All right. I'm going to talk a little bit about the application process. All of this information can be found on the Minds website with all of the links to the things I'm going to mention here. So that's your home base for applying to the program, and we will share that link again in case anyone needs it. So the first step in applying is just to do 3 really short little interest and aptitude inventories. And these are really about exploration of what data science looks like if you're not familiar with it, to get a sense of, is this the right choice for you? Are you interested in this? Do you think this would be fun to have as a career or interesting. And it gives us a little bit of information about your aptitude for that sort of thing as well. So that's step one. So you'll go to the links for those and complete those. You'll have to make a quick little login on that platform to be able to access them. And then once you're done with those, the application, again, that link is on the page that was just shared in the chat. So the application is an online process entirely. It includes a couple of components, and it starts with like a basic demographic information, background, basic information about yourself. It does include a couple of very short, essay questions about why you're interested and why you think this might be a good fit. It asks a little bit about if you've had any experience with data science related projects, to put that in there. That doesn't mean that if you haven't had any experience that you shouldn't apply. We are pretty open and interested in having people who think this might be a good fit for them, even if they've not had any formal data science training or experience. So tell us a little bit about why that might make sense for you. We are asking, so I'll back up again and mention that this is a research study funded by the Jefferson Trust. So because it is a research study, we are basically aiming to evaluate whether this program is going to be effective as a pathway for future individuals to hopefully gain employment and be successful in those roles. So we are going to collect some data, and the application is the first part of that process. So we are asking for documentation of neurodiversity, so that documentation of autistic disorder or autism spectrum disorder or that sort of thing. That can be in the form of an evaluation that you had completed at some point by a psychologist or a developmental pediatrician or another medical provider. Or it could be in the form of school documentation showing that you were eligible for services under the category of autism or that sort of thing. There's also, again, this is linked in the section about this, but there's also a form. If you don't have any of those existing things, you can use the form and take it to a medical provider and have them fill it out for you. We're happy to answer questions about that via email as well. We are asking for input from a parent or caregiver who knows you. So that's a portion of the application process, and there are specific instructions about how that can be completed. That person doesn't necessarily have to be sitting next to you to fill out the forms. It's a pretty short form, again, just asking about sort of their vision of, your future and aptitude and what supports that person who hopefully knows you pretty well might think you would benefit from in completing this program. We are asking for any transcripts. So and it says high school and or college. You don't have to have done any community college or anything like that to apply. But if you have done some community college or college, please attach those transcripts. The idea here is basically that the more information we have about you, the better we can sort of follow through with this process of individualizing and really tailoring the program and making sure that people are a good fit. Again, I mentioned if you have an individualized education program or 504 plan from when you were in high school or prior, please attach that. It gives us more information, and any previous evaluations that you think might be relevant, or if you have any notes or evaluations from a therapist or something like that, that could be useful too. So please feel free to attach stuff that you think would help us get to know you. I did forget to mention that there is one recommendation as part of it. So the application is going to also prompt you to have somebody who knows you, who is either a former employer or a former teacher, or someone who knows you in an academic capacity, for that person to write a brief recommendation about why they think you would be a good fit for this program. Thanks. Okay, yeah, I think that covers it. And again, if there are questions about that, we're happy to answer those. So we are going to be doing, as a first phase of the following the application, for those who are invited to participate, to come to Charlottesville, this is basically the only thing that we do need you to travel to Charlottesville for. And this will be, again, for us to get to know you a little bit better. We're going to do an informal interview with you and talk about your strengths and weaknesses and what you would like to see out of this, what you think you might benefit from. A brief assessment of cognition and learning style. So that might be something you've done before. And then some questionnaires we're going to have you do about your perception of your social abilities, your organizational and planning abilities, to see sort of, okay, what are the areas of strength and weaknesses that we need to target for each individual. And similarly, this is the portion where we would ask that a caregiver also fills out these same questionnaires. So just to have more information about how someone who's close to you perceives those things to work for you in everyday life. And again, this is a research study. So at this point, we will be going through the consent form, reading over all of that information. And if you choose to participate, you'll be signing the form. And obviously, if at any point after that you do not want to participate any longer, that's an option. But that form will be part of that process. So a little bit of a timeline for all of that. So those application components I went over, we're hoping to have in by April 15th. We're hoping to turn around a decision about who we think would be a great fit for this program and an invitation for them to participate by May 1st. This may happen before May 1st, potentially. We're going to sort of take applications as they come and invite people to then subsequently participate in those in-person assessments between roughly, all of May and the beginning half of June. And then you'll have the summer to prepare, get ready. In early August, we'll do an orientation to the program just to go over the nitty-gritty details of what you're going to be doing, reiterate probably some of this, and then our first class will kick off again. All of it's going to be virtual at that point, and the orientation will also be virtual. So you won't have to necessarily travel to Charlottesville if you don't live there. So yeah, and then the fall semester will get on its way and we'll be rolling. Just a word about caregiver involvement, and I've already touched on this. There's the one component that we are requiring of people is for a parent or caregiver who knows you well to complete the surveys I mentioned. And this is sort of with the idea that this helps us with personalizing the program and with the research component of understanding if you perceive yourself to have gained skills and knowledge in certain areas, and if others also perceive that to be playing out for you, which we hope will be true. So that's the one thing we really do need a caregiver for. The other components on this slide are really on an as needed basis, which is, I think, pretty common. This is a personal decision. So for example, some individuals might feel that they would benefit from parental support with getting all those application components together, or they might want their parent or caregiver to come with them to Charlottesville. If you do that the parent can then just fill out the questionnaires that same day while they're there. Otherwise, if the parent doesn't come with you, we can have the parent do the questionnaires online. Some individuals that I've worked with choose to use their parents as somebody to kind of be a social coach or somebody to practice social skills with in between our group sessions. So that's an option if that makes sense to you. Some other adults that I've worked with are not interested in that at all and would much prefer to find someone other than their parent to practice with, and that's totally okay too. Again, sometimes people find it useful for parents or caregivers to provide reminders as well. So that's all totally up to you. The surveys is the one required component. Some tools for success that we are highlighting for those who want to participate. So we are excited to have this grant from the Jefferson Trust that makes it possible to offer this tuition free. So that's fantastic. We do need participants to have a couple of things for this to benefit them maximally. One is basically this is based on the fact that we're offering this pretty virtually. So we need a laptop and a good internet connection. And that's going to be true for just getting the most out of your sessions with your mentor one-on-one, particularly if you're screen sharing or running a lot of programs on your computer. I imagine, a lot of bandwidth might be needed. Similarly, when we do group social skills programs online, we ask that everybody have their camera on because it helps with that feeling of us being a group and being cohesive and getting to know each other a little bit better. So that requires some more bandwidth. Similarly, a microphone so that we can talk, obviously, in a webcam. We are going to be using an application. We're going to be teaching you in the group to be using an application called Life Sherpa. It's an app that goes on an iPhone or an Android phone that helps organize and plan. So it'll be something that you can potentially use to keep track of when assignments are due or when deadlines at work are happening, or that sort of thing. And then transportation to Charlottesville for that one day of assessments, which will probably just be a few hours. I don't think I mentioned that, but I would say that will take like a morning or an afternoon. So transportation to that is needed. And a little bit more just about the research as we kind of wrap up here. So this is a research study, as we mentioned, and again, the goal is to evaluate whether this program is going to be effective in the future. So does it help participants gain the skills that they need to be successful in employment data science settings, right? Does it lead to that job, that hiring in phase 3 that we're hoping for? So I've mentioned the assessment at the beginning. That's going to include some questionnaires. Then we are going to have you redo some of just the questionnaires. So not the full assessment that required participants to come to Charlottesville, but the questionnaires will just be online after you've done your 2 semesters of coursework. So we kind of comparing, right, questionnaires from point 1 to point 2 to see if there are any areas we still might need to support or what gains were made, that sort of thing. And then we'll have some more questionnaires for you, your parent caregiver, and your employer or your coach at your internship position, again, to sort of evaluate what kind of progress is being made. And hopefully this tells us both about individual participant growth and about program effectiveness. And I mentioned the Life Sherpa app. It will also help us with just capturing some of that data, and might be a way that we ask you to quickly fill out a questionnaire about your perception of the program or what you would like to see changed. We are going to be soliciting feedback at the end of this from everyone who participates to see what suggestions you might have for improving this in the future.